Welcome back to the Sensing Self podcast. Today, I am going to give you 10 powerful shifts to increase your feminine energy. These shifts had helped me so much in my life, and I know they will in yours too. I'm your host, Kayla, and if this is your first time tuning in, I help empaths step into leadership. So if that's something you're interested in, you are in the right place. An empath is someone who can sense energy and emotion very strongly. And in order to have that ability, you need to have an open heart, which is an inherently feminine quality. Being an empath and being intuitive naturally means you are more in tune with your feminine energy. If you're ready to ground it in even further, this episode is for you. Before we get into it, I want to say this. I used to always watch psychic medium shows and wonder, what is it that allows some people to get a reading and some not? Like, what is the quality that brings our loved ones forward? I remember sitting out in the crowd, hoping and praying I would be chosen for a reading, but it never happened. At that time, my gifts were still waking up, and now that I offer readings myself, I now can confidently say, this is the key ingredient that allows someone to be chosen. It's having an open heart. Because now that I do readings for others, I can instantly sense when someone wants a reading, but is still closed off due to fear or pain or even from healthy skepticism. But it's the people who have an open heart and people who are in their feminine energy that have the most beautiful, accurate, and touching readings. These are the people who live with their heart on their sleeve. They're not afraid to cry. They're not afraid to feel. They're not afraid to live with their arms wide open. And when I say living from your feminine energy, this is exactly what I mean. It opens you up to life. It activates your intuition and you start living in flow with life rather than pushing your way against it. And I have a feeling that some of you listening right now are at exactly that point in your life where you need this shift to happen and you're ready. And in that case, I am so glad that you're here. Also, if you know someone who needs to hear this, please send it off to them. Living in your feminine energy opens you up to receptivity, which is a core skill of an empath, being able to receive. When you learn how to do that, the game changes because you drop into pleasure and overflow. This episode is going to teach you how. Okay, now let's get into it. Tip number 1. This one alludes to what I just mentioned earlier, and that is open your heart chakra. This tip used to drive me crazy because I would hear it in guided meditations all the time, just open your heart. But I didn't know what that meant or what it felt like. So I would just imagine my heart opening up like a flower, but it never really felt like it was working. Then I tried things like putting my hands in the prayer position over my heart or holding my hands over my heart, even tapping my heart. These things helped, but didn't fully feel like it was it. So I'm going to explain to you what I wish someone would have told me in regards to opening my heart. Opening your heart is not something that you can think about doing or visualize. It's not something you can do manually with your hands or your body position. It's something you have to do emotionally and spiritually. It involves surrender. It's the act of letting go of what's heavy. It's not easy to do, but it's possible. If your heart feels heavy, I want you to join my new activation called How to Clear Years of Energetic Weight in 5 Days. Just DM me with the word 5-day, that's the number 5 and then the letters DAY with no space on Instagram, and I'll send you the link. I'll also put the link to join in the show notes for you. That activation starts on May 4th, which is the day this podcast is scheduled to be released. But if you're tuning in at a later date, you can still have access instantly to the replays. Okay, tip number 2 for increasing your feminine energy is feel more of you and less of everyone else. This one is so hard for empaths. And if you're not new here, you might not have heard me say this before, but I do say it all the time. Because as an empath, you're wired outside in, not inside out. You're used to feeling the room around you more than you feel yourself. That's why when you do a guided meditation, you are feeling the person speaking rather than feeling you and your own energy. That's also why when you watch a movie or hear a sad song, you cry because you feel it so deeply. And that's why you can describe what everyone else in a room might need, but have not a single clue on what you want and need in your life. I get it. I've been there, and you are definitely not alone because this is the kind of thing that I hear from my clients all the time. But being in your feminine energy is about sensuality, right? It's about being able to feel you and be in your body. There are so many ways that you can make this happen. And honestly, it really comes down to your preference. For some people, this is a body-based thing. They prefer things like dancing or yoga or even walking with confidence to feel their sensuality more. For others, it's more about slowing down and taking the time to just sit with their own energy. But whatever works for you. With tip number 2, I'm going to encourage you to take at least 5 minutes a day to feel more of you and less of everyone else, okay? I'll deep dive into this during the 5-day activation, how to clear your years of energetic weight in just 5 days. So join us if that's something that you want to do. Now, tip number 3. See yourself as the gift. This is something I tell my clients all the time. Your presence is the present. Your energy is the gift. So treat yourself like it. Again, super hard for empaths. They're used to spotlighting other people in their life, but you need to realize that your energy brings warmth to the room around you, and that deserves to be honored, respected, and protected. When you do this, it feels natural to treat yourself, adorn yourself, or even just be more gentle on you. When you see yourself as the gift, you start dressing better, treating yourself better, speaking to yourself more lovingly. If you learn to embrace the fact that your energy is a gift and your presence is the present, you will naturally ground into your feminine energy more. I want to remind you that this is not vain or selfish. To see yourself in this way is an act of self-love. So just remember that, okay? Let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 for increasing your feminine energy is mastering receptivity. I spoke about this in the beginning. Living in your feminine energy is opening up to receptivity, which is your ability to receive. The feminine is the receiver, the masculine is the provider, which means opening yourself up to accepting help in your life, saying yes to the gifts offered to you, listening to your intuition. The way empaths often get hung up on this, though, is that they receive so much, they're picking up on so much around them that they get overwhelmed and confused. But there is a system to this. It's what I teach in the Sensing Self program. And as my guides always tell me, receptivity requires selectivity, which means you have to have boundaries. You have to choose what you receive and what gets access to you. Just because you can feel it all doesn't mean you have to be open to it all. So when I say master your receptivity, this is what I mean. It's about learning how to funnel out what doesn't actually serve you or your highest good. I'll teach you how to do this in How to Clear Years of Energetic Weight in 5 days, so be sure to join us if you know you need that. Next, tip number 5, use systems to intentionally slow down. I'm going to start off by saying, don't let systems be a buzzkill. There are people out there that think if I put systems or structure around my intuition, my gifts will stop working. Or if I put a time frame on my goals, habits, and routines, I'll be stuck in a box. Or here's a good one. If I have systems around the money that comes into my life, it will feel stale, dry, and boring. This couldn't be more wrong, honestly. I hate to burst your bubble, but that is just you getting in your own way. It's self-sabotage. Think about this. Why do you think super feminine women love things like ritualized skincare, fashion shows, art exhibits, slow mornings, and 5-year plans? Because when you have a system, you can relax and enjoy life. You don't have to rush and push and try to control things. You already know what's on the itinerary. Someone said something to me once. They were talking about someone they knew who would schedule in intimate time with their partner. They said something like, why would you put something like that on the calendar? Doesn't it just kill the mood? But it actually doesn't. It shows that you honor it, that you see it as important enough to carve out time for it. Learning the skill takes you from the rushed girl trying to please the masculine pace of life to the feminine woman that honors and cherishes what she takes time for in her life. See the difference? When you put systems in place to intentionally slow down your pace, instead of rushing your life and flying by the seat of your pants, as some people like to call it, you can truly relax into your feminine energy. This also pulls you out of the productivity rush and allows you to prioritize what actually brings you pleasure, which is a key quality of feminine energy. Using systems to slow down your pace pulls you out of reactivity and into responsiveness. You can choose to do what you want to do and what's important to you instead of just dealing with whatever life throws at you in that moment. If this last tip made you feel irritated or challenged you a bit, then get ready for the next one, because tip number 6 is start living as if your future self is your CEO. The reason this might irritate those of you who hate planning and love living in the moment is because this requires you to think not about just who you are now, but who you are becoming. Because feminine energy is creation energy. That's why women have a womb. We are bearers of life force energy. There's forward momentum involved in all things. When you live with your future self as CEO, this means you are thinking about the identity and the life you are creating for yourself in terms of your actions and behaviors and habits right now. People who want to be free of responsibility hate this, but some of you need to hear this right now. And I'm not kidding, learning this skill has changed my life. It's the difference from overspending on your grocery bill to planning your meals and sticking to your grocery list and your budget. I know. I can practically hear some of you say, what if I plan to do something, but I'm not in the mood for it later? Here's the brutal truth that you need to hear. If you plan to do something and then you don't do it because of your mood, then you are living from reactivity, not responsiveness. You're reacting to life. You're just getting by. You're surviving, not choosing. And if you truly want to ground into your feminine energy, you need to stop doing that. I took a course a few years back called Time Genius by Marie Forleo. It was all on time management. And I took this course because I started to realize I couldn't stick to a plan to save my life. I would plan something and there would always be stupid excuses and reasons why I wouldn't follow through. As a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids trying to run a business, I knew this had to change. What I didn't realize is that planning ahead and planning your time is actually an act of self-love. It's a gift to your future self. When I come home after a long day and I've already prepped a meal that I can just throw in the oven, or I can just drop into any scheduled planned activity without having to think about how I feel in that moment, it feels like a gift. It's like a gift from my past self to my future self. That's how I see it. And that feels good. And also, one thing I've learned from working with empaths is that we are so good at putting other people first. We abandon ourselves, our needs, and what we know is good for us just to make other people happy. When you think about your future self more, you are prioritizing your own happiness. You stop putting your wants and needs on the back burner. That's why living with your future self as CEO is so key. Here's how you do this. With every action and choice that you make, just ask yourself, how does this serve my future self? If you start thinking that way, your world will change in such a good way. This next tip is so good. Tip number 7, stop scanning and start leading. Empaths, are you listening? You know how you scan the room all the time, making sure everyone is okay, tuning into the vibe of the space, locking eyes and smiling with everyone you meet. What if you stopped doing that? What if you stopped feeling responsible for the well-being of everyone around you? It's not your job to make other people feel better all the time. I had this great comment from a follower on Instagram once that said, I always thought I was put on this earth to make the world better for those around me. But now I'm starting to realize that's not always the case. And here's the hard truth. It's not. It's not your job to make others feel better. And I'm sorry for all the people in your life that have made you feel like you need to be their emotional manager, because you don't need to be, especially if it's draining you. Again, this shifts you from a people-pleasing little girl energy to a powerful feminine woman. You get to feel how you feel. Other people get to feel how they feel. You don't need to let other people's bad moods impact you. You don't need to hold other people's energetic weight. You don't need to carry the load of other people's suffering. And that doesn't make you selfish or a bad person. You have to realize that at some point, you have to put down other people's baggage, because it's too heavy. You can't climb your mountain or get to where you want to go if you're overloaded with other people's baggage. In the How to Clear Years of Energetic Weight in 5 Days activation that starts today, I'll teach you exactly how to let go. So if you want to join us, click the link in the show notes. All right, tip number 8 is focus on income, not outcome. This is where all the previous tips start coming together. If you were thinking, how do I create systems and make a plan without becoming too controlling? Because we all know that being over controlling is a more of a masculine trait. The key is being unattached to the outcome. Do things for how it changes you or how it feels for you. Don't do things for what you expect to get out of it. This is the mindset shift that takes you from overgiving to receiving with grace. Something I see in empaths all the time is overgiving and overcompensation. Empaths are the type of people who would give their shirt off their back for someone, but then are the ones who end up getting hurt because people won't do the same thing for them. It's like that quote you've probably heard, don't cross an ocean for someone who wouldn't jump a puddle for you. Or this one came intuitively to me one day, don't serve up a buffet to those who would rather be starved, right? You know these type of people, you've felt this kind of pain and this has happened to you before. When you focus on income instead of outcome, the energy shifts from masculine to feminine. Think about it. The masculine asks, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? What's going to happen at the end? What will be the outcome? The feminine asks, how will this change me within? What will I receive, not get, which remember allows you to be receptive and choose instead of just getting what life throws at you. And how does this impact my income and future growth? This tip isn't just about money, it's about the flow of energy. The masculine looks at the efficiency of the light bulb. The feminine looks at what happens in the room when the lights are on. Tip number 9 is redefine your relationship to no. This one is a tough one and it's a big one. In fact, I have an entire podcast episode scheduled on this that you should see coming out in the next few weeks. When you think of your feminine energy, you think of softness, pleasure, receiving, and openness. As I said earlier, it's about surrender, and often it's about saying yes. It's about opening yourself up to more goodness in your life. But here's the caveat. The shadow of that feminine desire can become overindulgence, and this can go with anything. It can be overindulgence of foods, overspending on clothes, or even overindulging in emotions that no longer serve us. And empaths really need to redefine their relationship to the word no because of this. Learning the power of your no is what shifts you from people-pleasing to someone who has energetic boundaries, which is so important as an empath. But what you need to hear today is this. Your relationship to saying no to others is a reflection of your ability to say no to yourself. Let me say that again. Your ability to say no to others is in direct proportion to your ability to say no to yourself. This one, I had to learn the hard way, and honestly, I'm still learning. But if you can't say no to that extra glass of wine or that bad habit that you know is impacting your well-being in some way, then you will also struggle to say no to that friend that you know is a bad influence. This doesn't mean you have to say no to everything, but for a lot of you, you might have to practice saying no a lot more often. For me, it really hit me a few years ago when my mom, I asked her for a favor and she said no. I accepted it, understood, and respected her no. Then I started thinking, wait, she said no and nothing bad happened. Why can't I do that? And I had to push myself to start saying no more often. And sometimes saying no even without a reason, but simply because it felt like a no. You don't need to explain it. This includes self-indulgence and ways that you might treat yourself in ways that you know are secret forms of self-sabotage. For example, I love taking walks on our local nature trail. I used to always buy myself a coffee before my walks and carry it with me. Then after a while, I realized this felt like a treat as a way to reward myself for going for a walk. And then I realized that the walk itself was the reward. And the coffee that was burning my hands, spilling everywhere, and making my heart pound was just a bad habit, a habit of self-soothing for having to do something seemingly hard. But once I realized that was just the mindset of my inner whiner, all of a sudden the walk became the reward. I took deep pleasure in my nature walk without needing the treat to go along with it. Redefining your relationship to no is a game changer for grounding into your feminine energy because it allows you to set boundaries in your life around what actually serves you without being open to just anything. Your final tip number 10, is check in more than you check out. Similar to focusing on income more than outcome, you need to be checking in on yourself more than you are checking out. This is about putting yourself back in the driver's seat of your life. One of the shadow traits of the masculine is avoidance. And honestly, this is the kryptonite of many relationships for empaths. I'm sure you've heard of this scenario, and maybe you've been in one like this yourself. You give and give and give with nothing in return. You try to open up and go deep with someone, but they leave or close up emotionally. You put in all the effort and emotional labor of a relationship, and the other one just stops trying. That is the relationship between the overgiver and the avoidant, the empath and the narcissist, the always thinking and feeling other people versus the always only thinking about themselves people. When you learn to check in with yourself more, ask yourself what you need, what you want, and how you feel, you are naturally caring for yourself more. And feminine energy is nurturing and caring. Sometimes you need to learn how to give some of your own good energy back to yourself. You need to learn how to give just as much to you as you give to those around you. So check in with yourself more often, okay? I hope you've enjoyed these 10 tips. I'm going to summarize them really quick for any of you in case you need a refresher or you want to write them down. Number 1, open your heart chakra. Number 2, feel more of you and less of everyone else. Number 3, see yourself as the gift. Number 4, master receptivity. Number 5, use systems to intentionally slow down. Number 6, start living with your future self as CEO. Number 7, stop scanning and start leading. Number 8, focus on income, not outcome. Number 9, refine your relationship to no. Number 10, check in more than you check out. I hope these tips have helped you. Save this episode, come back to it, share it with someone you know needs to hear it, and make sure you come back to the podcast for the episode about refining your relationship to no. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to have you join the activation, How to Lose Years of Energetic Weight in 5 Days. We are starting on May 4th, which if you're listening to this episode when it airs, that means we are starting today. I would love to see your beautiful face in there. Even if you're tuning in on a later date, like I said, you have instant access to the replays. You can DM me on Instagram with the word 5day. That's the number 5 followed by DAY with no space, or take a peek at the show notes for the link to join. I'll see you back here next week for another episode of the Sensing Self podcast.